Good afternoon and thank you for joining us today. My name is Gordon Socker. I'm the Group Content Manager for the Dementia Care and Nursing Home Expo, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this webinar sponsored by Reputation. The agenda for today is a presentation for Reputation, followed by a Q&A. We'd like to make this as interactive as possible, so please keep submitting your questions throughout the discussion and using the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and I'll put these questions to the panel following the presentation. So let's get started. To open the discussion, I'm delighted to welcome Nathan from Reputation. Nathan, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Gordon. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, my name's Nathan. I'm from Reputation. I'm an account executive. I've been at Reputation for coming up to 3.5 years now. I work across many different kind of sectors and work with different customers, but predominantly within the care sector. So yeah, I've seen a lot of change over the time at Reputation over this time, particularly more than ever in the last year, in fact, during COVID, where the digital landscape has massively kind of transformed and more people are shifting towards kind of online side of things. So starting to see a lot more traction now and the importance of kind of this Reputation online at the moment.
And hi everyone, my name is Jay Purcell. I'm a customer success manager at Reputation. My role at the business is to ultimately, the clue is in the name, help customers get success out of all the software that they're purchasing with us. We will track to business goals. We will make sure that you're leveraging the tools that you have with us to the best effect, and ultimately to help you see return on investment and obviously generate more search, more customers, and more revenue as a result. And my focus is cross-industry, but I do have some customers I work with, quite big players in the care home sector, but I also work across the auto sector, retail, hospitality, and property management. So I have a wealth of expertise across lots of different industries to help businesses and help customers achieve their goals.
Great, thanks, Jay. So let's kick off then. And some of you may be familiar with ourselves at Reputation, but some of you may not be. So here's just kind of a very quick overview in terms of who we kind of work with. As you can see on screen, these are just some of the brands within the care sector. We have 50 leading care brands globally, including some of those on display, the likes of Barchester, Bluebird Care, Ramsey Healthcare in the UK as well, but we also have a number of other kind of companies as well, from the small and medium-sized businesses. One to spring to mind, Hartford Care. We work with over 1,000 enterprise level customers, managing over 500,000 locations worldwide. As we both alluded to, we do operate across 77 unique sectors, predominantly including care. That's one of our largest customer segments. So we also have kind of 7 offices globally as well and 500 staff. But I think that's we can move on to the next one. So there's no real kind of set agenda for today. We wanted to kind of just bring really to the table some of these key learnings which hopefully the webinar is designed around, and you'll be able to take some nuggets along the way, and feel free to kind of post any questions along the way, and we'll hopefully have them answered by the end. So the number one is really where and what people are looking for when selecting care providers, how to leverage your online presence to ultimately drive more inquiries. Number 3, managing multiple online profiles at once and ensuring they're all up to date. Number 4, the benefits of soliciting resident feedback to ultimately increase that guest and patient satisfaction at a hyper-local level, so not just at brand. And then finally, how to boost your care home's online reputation. So let's start off with this here. The storm is here. A very heavily marketed slide, but essentially what we're saying here is we're living right now in this feedback economy. And what we mean by that is, for the first time in history, there's thousands, if not millions of data points out there right now. What we call is this data in the wild, where you're getting feedback from many different kind of avenues online, whether that's first party feedback, that more to do with your kind of survey, and whether that's third party feedback in terms of kind of reviews, and that could be reviews coming from Google, that could be from carehome.co.uk, so more industry specific. That could be employee feedback, whether that's coming from Indeed or Glassdoor, or whether that's coming from your kind of social channels as well. There's many kind of different avenues where people are ultimately going to leave feedback, and that's related to your brand, or whether that's at a hyper-local individual care home perspective. So why is that important? It's because it informs your customers far more than what you can say about yourself. Now, because there's so much feedback out there right now, it makes it almost impossible for you as a business or a brand to control your destiny. And this is why it's so important, in order to be able to listen to what's being said by these customers online, being able to understand all this feedback, and then most importantly, take action on that feedback as well. What we usually say is data is only as important as the action you take from it. So it's incredibly important and vital for you as a business to really listen, understand, and take action on what's being said.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nathan. So moving on to the first topic for conversation today then, where and what people are looking for when selecting a care provider. I think the first thing to understand really is we all know that it used to be simply good enough to have an informative and a responsive website, or alternatively a really impressive, eye-catching storefront or shop front. That's kind of the past now. You know, if you look at where people operate, everybody is online. Digital is your new front door, and with the lion's share of feedback and search coming from Google, Google is ultimately your new digital shop window. It's where you need to showcase your brand, not only to ensure that you're seen, but also not the competition, because it is a fight on there to get search volume and to get inquiry. On an average now, Google My Business listings, and you can see an example of a Google My Business listing on the screen here. If anyone's on the webinar that isn't familiar with what a Google My Business listing is, or a GMB page, it's this example on the screen here, which appears when you look for a business or put a search term in online. They receive 10 times more traffic today than your own website. So you can clearly see why having an effective and an attractive digital front door or shop window is important. There's some key stats on the screen here. You can see, 90% of customers are now looking at customer reviews online before making a purchase. That may even be higher in the care sector, where it's such an emotive purchasing decision. 200% growth in near me searches over the last 2 years. So customers looking for care homes near me, respite care near me, are growing exponentially year on year. And as Nathan alluded to earlier, COVID has only expedited that further. 86+% share of search is commanded by Google. It is absolutely the one place, if you were to look at one thing alone, where you need to focus to generate more inquiry. And you can see the other two stats on the screen here, just how many views and users are using Google every single day. There's also this concept of what we call zero-click searches in the industry. So when customers or prospective customers are providing those searches to Google, whether it's a care homes near me search or a specific search for a local company, everything they need to know about that purchasing decision is ultimately on this first screen that they'll see here. You can see from the example, we already know what the star rating for that provider is, what people think of them, how many reviews they've had. Volume of reviews is also a good indicator of whether you want to place business with a customer. If you're a 5-star but with 1 review, it doesn't necessarily say that you're a great business to work with. So there's lots of information on this screen that customers are using as a purchasing decision right out the gate. Do you have a phone number? Do you have a web address? Do you have a way of contacting the business and information about the business to help them make an informed decision right there and then, if they want to even inquire as to whether they want to potentially purchase a service from you or place a loved one or family member in care. So zero-click searches are a huge part of everyday life these days. The majority of searches now go no further than Google. So if you aren't managing and effectively presenting yourself as best as possible on these pages, you're losing out on potential customers. So right out the gate, if you were to take one thing away from today's webinar, it's just how important your GMB or your Google My Business pages are to your success and you'll see we'll cover Google quite specifically a lot today. So diving in a little bit of detail, looking at some of these numbers, you can see here some of the sort of key search terms on the left-hand side here, including the more kind of granular search terms like near me, nursing homes, near me, care homes, near me, home health. These are the typical search volumes per month in the UK. Local searches are also increasing 50% year on year, so these numbers are not going to go down. And this is all of the potential for your business to appear in those search results. When a customer is performing one of those search results, they will either find a single business, in which case, right down the bottom right of the screen here, you'll see Barchester, Cheshire Grange. You'll see their GMB listing. If the search is quite specific, or you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of competition, you may just find one GMB listing, in which case it will show you that listing. But in the majority of cases, you'll be presented with what Google call a local pack. And you can see that on the screen as well here, where we've got Greenacres Care Home, Wavertree Nursing Home, and Brooklands Care Home. That's our local 3-pack for when I've performed the near me search. Now, if you're not appearing in that local 3-pack, you're missing out on potential new customers. And the best way to appear in that local 3-pack is to satisfy all of the things that Google looks at when deciding whether to present you or a competitor. It is also fine to keep on top of other data sources as well. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Google a lot here because of the amount of share that they command. It's fine to look at your other sources as well. Most of you, if not all of you, will be on carehomes.co.uk, home, care, Facebook, and so on. And we'd recommend you do that because Google will also be looking at those sources as well. A big part of the Google algorithm is spread of reviews. So, it's not just great to have loads of reviews on Google. They will look at care homes, for example, .co.uk to see whether you've got feedback there as well. So we do recommend you obviously don't overlook your other sources, but you should see Google as your #1 priority. Also, regularly updated knowledge panels. Knowledge panels are just another way of referring to your business listing, your GMB listing. As we said, they're getting 10 times more traffic than your own website. It's where almost everyone starts their online journey on Google. So maximizing that search and that source as a priority is #1. And I think the important thing to ask at this point on this slide is, these are some of the key search terms coming out of the UK. Are you even appearing in those searches? And if you're not, hopefully some of the information in this webinar today will help you. So just moving on a little bit further, obviously it's important to optimize that start of your customer journey because it's going to help you generate more traffic. It's going to help you generate more new business. And as you grow potentially as a business, obviously the number of Google profiles you'll have is also going to increase because you will have one for every home. That's going to make managing those profiles more difficult. Not only does it take time and care and attention to keep these things up to date because it's not a tick box exercise, they can change, but also the more profiles and homes you have, the more management you've then got as a result. But by actively managing these things and by actively regularly updating these profiles, you are giving yourself a better opportunity to appear more in search. The more often you regularly update these profiles and Google can see you're spending time and care and attention on, pruning and maintaining your profiles, you're 2.7 times more likely to be seen as reputable by Google because you're regularly updating and maintaining your profile. You're likely to see 42% more clicks for direction requests to your business if you have photos on your profile, for example. So if people can see when they find you on Google that they can have a look around the home, they can see the outside of the home, they can see the grounds, for example, you're way more likely to get direction requests to come see you if you have photography of the premises. And 90% customers are more likely to visit you after seeing a phone number on your listing. If they can't get in touch with you by any method they choose, which is what we effectively call omni-channel, and customers are dancing between lots of different channels now, particularly since COVID. We're looking at direct messaging more than ever, clicks to website, but also people are just getting directions to come see you or picking up the phone to you. If you haven't got all those options for those customers to contact you in the way they choose, you're less likely to be seen and also to be expressed an interest in as a result. So next slide is a little bit data heavy, but I just wanted to give you an example of how this can work for you. So this is a specific example for a current customer of ours who doesn't really wish to be named at this point, but it's a perfect example of how much traffic benefits you can see when you get your Google GMB profiles or your digital front doors to work for you. This customer was seeing on average 14 million views to their listing pages per year back in 2017. By investing in a business listings solution that made it easy for them not only to make changes to their profiles, make updates to their profiles, and really make sure that those profiles were all singing, all dancing, and were as attractive as possible to customers, regular maintenance, and also the fact that a business listing solution like the one Reputation provides pushes that data for you every 24 hours. You're ticking lots of search algorithm boxes at Google. And by doing all of those things consistently and regularly, you're going to see incremental growth in your listings to the point where today they're now seeing 270 million listings views per year. More views obviously equals more conversions, i.e. calls. So you can see the increase here in the middle chart in how many increases in calls they've received. And how many people have clicked through to their website. Back in 2017, they were looking at 500,000 visits to their website per year. It's now up to 7.7 million. And that's just by maintaining an accurate and fully consistent group of business listings on Google. So looking at our second point, how to leverage your online presence to drive more inquiries. This is to give you a little bit of an insider scoop on how it kind of works. So for those of you who are a little bit more technically minded, you may have seen this already, but obviously the Google search algorithm is a closely guarded secret by Google. They're not going to tell people how exactly that search algorithm works because people will ultimately gamify that search algorithm. But there are businesses out there that will regularly run analysis on that search algorithm to try and help steer people in the right direction to understand what they could do to improve their visibility on Google and in search. And this is ultimately how that's broken down. So you can see here up to 79% of that Google algorithm, the local 3-pack algorithm we talked about a minute ago, is addressed by a number of solutions that you may or may already have a strategy around. So it's predominantly made up of your reviews, and we'll talk about that, your business listings, your website pages, your location level pages on your website play a big part in that as well, and also your social media strategy, which we'll touch on a little bit later. You can see here the weighting is clearly in favor of Google My Business. So by maintaining those profiles, as we've just talked about, you are satisfying a third of the Google algorithm. So just by claiming those pages, keeping them up to date, making them look attractive as possible, you're generating a third of that algorithm straight away, and you're going to see tangible results. The second one down, which is what we call, or Google calls, on page, is your website, your location level pages. For those of you that haven't delved into this before, and some of you will be familiar with it, Google is a trust engine, and you ultimately have to think of it as such. The information you put on your Google profile will be regularly checked by Google to make sure that the information they're showing their customers is correct. So they'll look at your website, because your website is directly linked from that Google My Business page, to see whether it can validate the information it has on you on your website. So if your location level pages don't also have opening hours, telephone numbers, addresses, contact information, then they're going to throw their own information into doubt. So a big part of this algorithm is also about how effective your websites are at showing the same level of information that you've put on Google. But then the other one I want to just touch on for a second is reviews. 16% of the algorithm. Now this is not just about your star rating out of 5. It's not just about having tons and tons of reviews. Obviously, that's a factor and a big factor, but Google's also looking at lots of other things. They're looking at, are you engaging with that feedback? Do you even respond to your reviews? Do you respond to your Q&As that customers might be giving you and asking you on your pages? Are you regularly requesting reviews? So if you aren't receiving reviews in the last 90 days, or your volume of reviews is dropping, that plays a big part as well. But Google's also looking at your spread of reviews. We talked a minute ago about having an effective spread of feedback across other sites, such as Facebook, such as Care Homes, that Could It UK, and all of the other industry-specific sites. If Google can see you have a good, effective spread of feedback across the internet and not just in one place, you're going to be scoring points there as well. So by satisfying those 4 areas, you're giving yourself the best chance to generate more inquiry online, not just through Google, but other key listing sites as well, and ultimately see more customers expressing an interest in having a service with you.
Great, thanks for that, Jay. Hopefully, some of these points that we've highlighted already, you'll be able to take a few nuggets down. I appreciate it's a lot of information to take in, but I'm sure there's something in there that you can kind of take away. This slide here is kind of looking, it's just contextualizing really our platform. So what you're really seeing here is what we call the golden circle. So it's our platform at quite a high level overview really. And it's coming back to this feedback economy thing again. So what we've talked about throughout this is there's so many different avenues where you as a business are getting feedback, whether that's reviews from Google, carehome.co.uk, from your social channels, whether that's coming from first party survey feedback, or whether that's just coming from a call center, let's say. There's so much data there. And what you also see around the kind of circle itself is different departments as well. So our platform is very much comprehensive, and the beauty of it is it touches many facets of the business and many departments within your business as well. So as you can see, it's highlighting a few areas there in terms of the obvious marketing and CX, the kind of sales teams, the actual care team, and also kind of the human resources as well, in terms of looking after that employee feedback that's kind of appearing on those key channels, including Indeed and Glassdoor. What you're looking at here is what we call RXM. So we created this category, and it's centered around reputation experience management. And it's basically the merging of 2 different worlds, or 2 different journeys in essence. It's customer experience and online reputation management. And what this means is that we're helping businesses win across that entire kind of patient journey, as kind of highlighted. And it falls within 3 different pillars, or 3 different categories. And as you can see, as the 3 categories around the circle, you get the get found piece. So that's all around about maximizing your visibility online for consumers ultimately seeking care and finding you as a business. So that's what we've alluded to previously in terms of optimizing your Google My Business pages, optimizing your pages on Facebook, so people will ultimately be able to find you. The get chosen part, that's all about increasing the engagement, increasing the sentiment. So driving that review volume, driving it across those third-party sites, driving it across the social channels, because ultimately what that's going to do by increasing the engagement, increasing that sentiment, it's going to drive a better kind of review volume and star rating across your pages, but it's also going to hopefully drive a better resident acquisition as well. And then finally, the get better piece, which is all about the actioning of the data. So once you are getting all that feedback or that data online, how are you making sense of that data? How do you identify what those strengths are, what those weaknesses are, what those key drivers of improvement are? So that's really taking into account all this feedback and analyzing this at a granular level, so you're able to derive that actionable insight to help make kind of better business decisions and operational improvements within the business. So we're leveraging this immense kind of feedback economy here that many brands currently struggle with in order to drive results in those 3 key categories, which is search, sentiment, and action. And these aren't 3 separate problems whatsoever. These are all interrelated and form this essential virtuous circle. So If you tend to have a pain point in one, then you're affected by other parts as well. So everything feeds everything in effect. So getting found and the top of this circle helps you ultimately get chosen, which enables you then to operationally get better. And obviously, if you're getting better and you're improving that feedback and you're turning those weaknesses into a strength, you're more likely to be found online as well. And your reputation is based heavily on this kind of patient experiences, customer experience. As you work on it, it goes to work for you. So we want to establish this feedback hub, and this right here is just, once again, a high level of some of the key areas where you start to really bring in that feedback. Now, we talk about Google My Business, and we have a right to talk about that in that sense, because Google is very much king in our world. But when you have a look at other streaming avenues, you have a look at kind of your resident surveys or any kind of surveys that you may conduct in-house, whether that's kind of SMS or text messaging, whether that's coming from a call center, or whether that's your standard ratings and reviews, or your social media channels, or potentially even your online chat on your website. What we're bringing in is a feedback hub. So one place where all of your online feedback, wherever there's a mention of your brand or your business online, we're bringing that into one central environment to essentially effectively monitor all this feedback that's being said, manage that feedback, help you respond to all that feedback. So it means you're less likely to miss anything really that's associated to your brand. If we kind of take it back to that first slide, having all that feedback and coming in from many different kind of avenues itself, it makes it nearly impossible for you as a business or the person who's looking after your feedback online for your care homes, nearly impossible to kind of monitor. But this also helps manage your wider reputation across various platforms and sources. And if done correctly, you'll get a real sense of what we call this voice of the customer. But more so in kind of our game and within the care sector is that patient resident, the voice of the patient, the voice of the resident in this example. And that really starts to derive all of that feedback that's being said, make sense of that, really start to understand the insights behind what's being said, and ultimately act on that for operational improvement. So these days, most things start with search, and ultimately that's, you know, that is the start of kind of your journey as a customer, or someone if you're looking to send one of your family members or one of your friends to a particular care home. Now, put yourself in a resident's shoes itself. How would they or their family members look for or research care or a care home? What they'll do, and just speaking from personal experience, me and my partner were looking to put her nan into a care home a couple of years ago, and we didn't really know in terms of a local perspective what would be the best care homes for her. So what we did is we Googled it. We went to Google and we searched for a care home near me. And what we did then, it came up is what Jay alluded to before, is that top 3 search in Google. So those top 3 kind of business listings or Google My Business pages that are showing up for the 3 top searching care homes near me. What we then did is we started to look at what they looked like online. We started to look what their star rating was. We started to understand what their reviews, what people were talking about their brand online. And that really made us make that decision based on what was being shown in that search ranking. And off the back of that, we immediately called that business and rung them up and inquired about what the next steps were. It's that easy. And that's essentially what a customer journey or a patient journey will look like now. But after you search, you really want to appear, like I say, in that Google local free pack. And that's if the search isn't brand specific. If it is brand specific, then you want your knowledge panel or your Google My Business page, or what we like to call your digital front door to your business, to be as populated and as positive as possible. What Jay may have mentioned before is that if you have a really up-to-date and an accurate Google My Business page, you actually generate 10 times more traffic than you do to your website. So it's incredibly important to make sure that you have all the relevant information on there, including your opening hours or kind of key categories. Make sure that you're displaying a great star rating and a number of volume of reviews. All of this plays a huge part in how you're ultimately going to get found as a business or as a brand, but also how you get chosen as well. So we've obviously harped on about Google, and there is a reason for that. Google is very much king in our game. Google actually holds a global search of 90%, meaning that 9 out of 10 people will go to Google and they will actually, whether they search for a care home near me or whatever it may be, their journey essentially starts on Google. Now use yourself as an example. How many times do you visit a site each day? What kind of things are you searching for? Whether that's questions, is it the near me search, any contact information? It's exactly what other people will be searching for too. And there's so much more your GMB listing or your Google My Business page can do other than give you directions or show you your phone number. People can now ask questions on your pages, so they can start to leave feedback within your Q&A part of the actual Google My Business page. They can rate you, so they can start to leave that feedback and give a star rating based on their experience. They can check your opening hours, and they can even now schedule a tour. I'm sure some of you on the call today have that option within your pages, and that's a brilliant starting point. It's actually being able to schedule a tour itself. So this feedback can not only help you generate more inquiries, but it's also ultimately going to increase that resident satisfaction. But the main point of it is you want to make sure that your pages are completely optimized, because that's where the journey starts for a lot of your potential customers, and where ultimately people are going to choose you as a preferred kind of care facility or a brand over their local competitors. And finally, on the kind of getting found, getting found depends very much heavily on your kind of your experience, your patient experience, the resident experience delivery. So customers won't choose you if you're a 1-star business. Naturally, they're not going to choose you if you're a 1-star or a 2-star. They're more inclined to choose you if you're either a 4 or a 5-star rating business. That's just how we operate now. And that's whether it's in care, whether that's in restaurants. It's completely universal. And Google won't also rank you highly either. As mentioned, Google has that 90% search, so making itself that start of that customer journey. So making itself right in search results, customers can start to see the evidence then of a great kind of a customer experience, the kind of resident experience that they're getting. So as you can see on the page there, we're starting to see that 4.5 stars. We see 1,400 plus reviews. That's helping them decide if they want to choose you over their kind of competitors. And that's how incredibly important it is. We all know in this game that choosing a loved one or a friend to go to a care home is one of the most emotive decisions you'll ever come to make. And that's why it's so important to make sure that how you're being shown online in terms of how you're looking for your pages and where people are finding you are completely accurate and in that accurate representation of you and the services that you deliver. These search results, though, these knowledge panels, are so highly relevant as well, that customers no longer need to click out to anywhere else to decide about you. Jay mentioned it before in terms of this zero-click phenomenon, can't even say the word, phenomenon, which we find ourselves in now. Now, that's all about in terms of if someone goes to your page and they've got all the relevant information there listed on your pages, then they don't need to really go anywhere else. They don't even need to go onto your website. So it's so important, like you say, to make those optimized. So if you're not generating new revenue from this new kind of patient or a customer journey standpoint, then this is something that you need to start to auto develop or certainly need to consider moving forward.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nathan. To move away from Google for a second, shall we, and talk about social media. How social are your facilities, are your homes? Surely you all have a Facebook page. For your homes, you all have a Facebook profile. Social media is a big part of your strategy as well. So obviously we talked about how Google is king. Google is generating the lion's share of search volumes, but right behind Google in number 2 slot as a search engine is Facebook. Facebook, we all traditionally know as a social media tool, but it is a key listing site on the internet as well. They have a search bar. Most of us have probably just used it to find a meme or our friends, but near me searches happen every day on Facebook as well. 1 in 3 people on Facebook are searching for something other than a person. So an effective social media strategy is really important as well. If you haven't already got a Facebook page for your home, you should have one. And you should start to consider what your strategy around growing that page is. And there are 4 key things to consider when looking at your social media strategy. First of all, it's an opportunity to listen and respond. People can leave you reviews on Facebook. People can leave you comments on Facebook, check in to your locations. All of those things are pieces of digital feedback that you can listen to and respond to and engage your local community on. Secondly is managing your content. Creating content is one step, but making sure that content is targeted and is relevant to your audience, and the ability to do that through one central library is going to make life easier for you. I spend a lot of time talking to businesses in all sectors and all industries about how they manage an effective social media strategy. Clearly, you want that content to be relevant, interesting, engaging, but also local. And in the care industry in particular, that's kind of a challenge, right? Because you want your homes and your home managers and your staff on the ground focusing on providing excellent care. But at the same time, you know you need to engage and create an effective social media strategy. So usually when we work with businesses on this, we talk around having a consistent brand message and really looking at what days, what content you want to push out. So there's nothing to stop you at a head office or central level pushing brand content to your pages at both home level and brand level, but then also make sure you set aside at least a couple of days in that week for local content. Now that could be the homes curating that content. It could be you as a central perspective looking at what's going on in the local area, what events you're planning at that home, interesting things in the industry you might want to talk about that potential residents or family members may be interested in knowing. All of that content is really important to help you grow a social media following, and it's going to help you generate buzz. Packaging all of that content into either a local, regional, or head office level campaign is going to help you ensure you've got everything customers or potential customers might need to know about you and engage with you online. Not only are you more likely to have that person then follow you on social media as a result and engage with your content, but by having better visibility on Facebook, you're going to generate additional search from that channel as a listings search site as well. The bonus effect is, we always talk about Google is king. Ultimately, always does come back to Google. Google will see your Facebook pages. Google sees all that is available on the internet. And by having the same information on your Facebook page, just like they look at your website, it's another tick in the box for Google to say, I can guarantee that the information I have is correct. And it also helps you from a Google perspective. So managing an effective social media strategy is not always just about social media. It's also about generating search as well. And then finally, it's about raising awareness with advertising. If you are struggling to gain a following on Facebook, targeted boosted posts do work really well. Facebook and other platforms provide paid advertising where you can attract and reach specifically out to specific audiences with specific interests in particular demographics or in particular regions or families, as they call them on Facebook. So you can target your content accordingly to the people you want to try and attract to make sure that you're pulling in the right potential customers as well. And then one of the other things we do, particularly in reputation, is we talked about all this feedback, and Nathan talked about just how many data points are out there in the wild. All of this feedback is unstructured, it's difficult to understand, and particularly at a home level or even a regional level, it's too difficult to try and look for themes and trends in that feedback. So providers like us, like Reputation, try to make that easy for you. We not only pull in all of your feedback into one central platform, which allows you to see all of your feedback in one place. Your whole internet feedback rating is available there. You can drill down to individual sites if you want to, but you'll be able to see your overall star rating on the web across both care homes and all the other sites you might be tracking. But we also try and help you digest that feedback. So what we're looking at on the screen here is what we call a sentiment map. So every piece of feedback we pull into your platform is read and is analyzed by our platform and the machine learning tools we have in place to help you understand your feedback. We look at the sentiment, i.e., is it a good review? Is it a positive review? If it is, we know that what they're saying is generally going to be positive. We then look at the words and the phrases the customer has used in their review to you, and we look at categorizing that review for you. This allows us to be able to present you with the sentiment map you can see on the screen here. This particular example is from a large care group in the UK we work with, January to June 2019. You can see on the screen here, their sentiment map was lots of oranges and lots of reds, which potentially meant that other than really surgical, they had a particularly negative sentiment online. By categorizing all of this feedback and showing them where they had a problem, in what specific areas of their business they had a problem, they were able to drill into, let's say, staff, where they have a large proportion of feedback that's fairly neutral to negative, hence the sort of dark orange here. And they're able to see, why is that working against them? What are customers saying when they talk about our staff? Not just at an overall holistical brand level, but also down to a regional or home level. Is there a particular member of staff? Is there a particular number of homes that might be suffering from negative staff feedback? If so, we are able to easily identify that through the tools we provide, and then you can make meaningful operational change as a result. By doing so, you can then come back a couple of months down the line and review your sentiment map, and you can see here from July to December, this business was able to completely turn that picture around. So this is live data from our platform. They were able to turn that into much more positive feedback by identifying a series of problems they had in their business, and were able to put changes in place to make sure that the feedback they then got around that was more positive. They also went out and proactively requested feedback, because you're much more likely to get a positive review if you ask for that review. We're all very quick to jump into our keyboards when we've got a problem with a business and reach out to them on Twitter and try and get compensation or have a moan. We all know that's just human behavior. It's much more difficult to tap into your happy customers who are generally more silent. So by going out there and asking for feedback, you're much more likely to get positive feedback, which will change the dynamic of your sentiment, improve your overall sentiment, and obviously improve your star rating on Google and other sites as a result as well. So if you know what areas to focus on, by using tools such as this, you can directly influence positive change at your homes and obviously at your facilities. Next topic we wanted to talk about was how to boost your care home's online reputation. We touched on it just a second ago. We talked about requesting feedback. There are lots of ways of doing that. You can give people little business cards saying, please leave us a Google review. You can ask them in person if they've had a good experience to leave you a Google review or a review on any other website. But there are tools out there to help you do that as well. At some point in that customer journey, you are either collecting a email address for a family member or a friend or the resident itself. And you'll have that data available to proactively ask them for their feedback. This person may have just checked out a respite care, in which case you want to find out how their stay was and whether they provided an excellent service while they were there. This person may be now placed in a home, and you may want to find out from their family members or their friends how they're feeling and if they feel their loved one is looked after and cared for and is being provided with excellent care. And tools like Review Booster do exactly that. So effectively, we're making it easier for patients and families to share feedback to you and obviously help enhance the start of your customer journey, i.e. push reviews to your Google pages. It's very, very seamless. The way we actually do it at Reputation is we do it through a very small survey, which just consists of either an NPS score, i.e. a 0 to 10 sort of satisfaction rating, or a star rating, 1 to 5, and a comment box. Very, very short survey, just those 2 questions to capture their feedback. Customers are much more likely to give you their feedback as well if you're doing that privately. So a survey is a really good chance to make sure you're maximizing the amount of feedback you receive. And then because we have a great relationship with Google and we're a preferred partner of Google, we have access to tools with Google that allow us to turn that survey into a review. So at the end of the survey, we will thank them for sharing their feedback, and we will then ask them if they wouldn't mind leaving that review on Google. No retyping, no fuss. Customers would just simply approve that message, and that review and that feedback they give you is presented online. And as a result, we're seeing businesses who use this with us are seeing 30 to 40% jumps in the amount of positive reviews they're receiving as a result, which is directly affecting their overall star rating, which is directly driving more inquiry as a result. And then this is just an example of how it works in practice. You can see the kind of hidden screen at the back here. You can just about see based on your experience. This is an NPS question, 0 to 10, a customer satisfaction question. And then question 2 is just, please tell us about your experience in words. Very simply, a rating and a comment. We then thank them for that feedback, and we would ask them if they'd be grateful enough to share that feedback on Google. If customers are happy to do that, they would click the yes, post my review on Google button. And the very next screen they're presented with is your Google page with the review screen already open, with the data they've provided already populated. All they have to do is click post, and then you've got that review on Google. If they decide, no, they don't want to post that review on Google, that's fine. You still get that feedback. It would be contained within the survey results themselves. You can still assess and understand and analyze that feedback just as you would your reviews. But then you also give them the option to maybe share that feedback elsewhere. So if they click the no button, not only are we storing that feedback internally anyway, but we can also say, how about carehomes.co.uk? Would you be more comfortable sharing your review there? So you're never going to lose that feedback. You're always going to maximize your opportunity to take a pulse on how customers feel and make sure that you can use that feedback to drive operational change as a result. And I think the key thing to understand here is this piece of technology we're looking at on the screen is exclusive to Reputation. Lots of providers can do similar, but we are the only provider in the world globally that can seamlessly push a piece of feedback from a survey into a Google review without the customer having to rekey that information. And that's a crucial part of that journey. If you ask them to jump through hoops to give you that feedback, they aren't going to do it. We all know when we've been sent a survey and we click it to maybe leave feedback and it's 50 questions long, we're not going to leave that feedback. So why would they do that if you then ask them to rekey their star rating and retype their comment? They simply wouldn't. So by leveraging tools like Review Booster with Reputation, you're much more likely to get that feedback into your business, but also online on Google to make you look better online as well.
Great, thanks for that, Jay. Let's summarize then. So if we kind of think back to the start of the webinar and that first couple of slides where we showed that golden circle and those 3 pillars that make up our platform, which is the get found part, which is all about those optimizing the pages, the get chosen part, which is increasing all the engagement and sentiment and proactively requesting feedback to drive more volume to your pages. And then finally, the get better part, which is kind of really understanding the feedback at a granular level and to get actionable insights to help with kind of make business decisions. Now, what you're seeing on the screen here is Reputation Score X. So this essentially is the bow that ties it all together. So when we talk about Reputation Score, it's essentially a credit score for your business and for your entire online brand. So it's a measurable indicator to evaluate the success of your entire business online, looking at 3 main components, which is kind of your sentiment, engagement, and your visibility aspects. So the components that make this up could be your review volume, so how many reviews you're getting. It could be your review spread in terms of whether you're getting reviews on Google, carehome.co.uk or Facebook, whether that's your business listing accuracy, so how accurate your data is on your pages. There's 9 different components that make up your rep score, and that can be marked from 0 to 1,000, and we have an industry average that we base it on, but we also base it on the best in class as well. What you can see from a reputation score, you can see at both brand level and at a local level performance. We start to give you those kind of insights, what Jay talked about before, of where you're going wrong, perhaps maybe areas of improvement, and what areas to kind of act on essentially. And off the back of that, what we're the only business to kind of do this is actually to give you recommendations or prescriptive kind of recommendations based on these kind of tailored insights that you're getting at both a brand level, but also if you're looking at an individual care home at a hyper local level. And that's what you can do to act on and then ultimately improve. And we can start to give you that estimated impact. So you see here, like in some of the insights and recommendations, you see, for example, if you get an increase of your review volume by 20, and your star rating will go up by 1 star, and you'll have like an increase of reputation score by 30 points. So we can start to estimate what this impact's going to be. And the reason why this impact is important is because what we see with a lot of our customers is that those businesses or those particular locations that actually have a high reputation score actually bring in the most revenue into the business, and vice versa. Those that have the lowest reputation scores actually bring in the least amount of revenue. So this reputation score is a singular metric which has correlation with direct revenue growth within your business and within the industry. This functionality is completely patented by Reputation. It is unique to us, but it is used by literally hundreds and maybe thousands of our enterprise level brands, and they use this every day to track the success of their entire business at both a brand level but also at local individual level as well.
Thanks, Nathan. Conscious of everyone's time, so just to let you know, there are 2 more slides and then we'll move into Q&A. I can see a few coming in, which is great. So if you do have any, please drop them in the Q&A section. Slide on the screen here is just an example of what we will, one of the things we will work with you on as a customer success manager. So as a customer success manager, one of my responsibilities is to help demonstrate return on investment, and that the tools you're investing in and obviously trying to leverage are working for you. And this is an example of a case study that we will run with you. This is a case study we ran with a large UK care home who's a current customer of Reputation with over 200 locations and 17,000 staff nationwide. They were able to articulate what their needs were, i.e. a centralized view of all of their feedback for their 200 plus care homes, improve their review volumes across their group and have a positive impact on their local search, all of the key things you'd expect you'd want to achieve as a business, but also make it manageable at the local level whilst maintaining a national overview at head office as well, with all of the associated reporting and dashboards that you might need to assess how things are performing as well. We are then, as customer success managers, able to turn those business needs into objectives. We will recommend what you should be doing to grow your reputation score, to address all of the things we think will help your business generate more search and generate better feedback. And then we will assess the outcomes with you as a result as well. And this is just an example of one of the things we'll create with you throughout your journey with us as a customer. You can see the example we looked at again earlier before, where we looked at a clear problem with your sentiment in particular areas and how we were able to look at your business need, come up with a series of objectives, and then measure the outputs as a result so you can ensure and be comfortable that you're seeing value from the platform, but also that it's tied directly to your business KPIs. Are you seeing a reduction in unoccupancy rates? Are you seeing an improvement in guest satisfaction? All of those things are going to be key metrics to help you understand if your business is succeeding online. So one of the many things we'll do with you throughout your journey with us as a customer is we'll work on specific case studies like this that you can take away almost as a badge of honor to show that all the hard work you're doing is paying off. So if we were to look at sort of 5 key things, let's wrap up 5 key things you want to look at after today's session to help your business online. Well, first, if you haven't already claimed your Google profiles, go and find them. They will probably already be there. If they aren't, make one. And if they are already there and they're not claimed, claim them. The very first thing you can do to put yourself in the best foot forward is to get ownership of those pages if you haven't already, and update your information on those pages because they are being viewed today. Number two, check those pages regularly. Make sure those pages are accurate. Clearly, this is difficult if you're a large location business. That's why tools like Reputation exist to help you manage large volumes of pages. But they aren't a tick box exercise. You can't update the information and think, well, we haven't changed anything, so those profiles will still be correct. Google can change those pages regularly. Users of Google, i.e. me, you, anybody, can suggest an edit to a Google page, and they will create suggested edits. So if you've got a data point out there on Google, like a phone number that isn't yours, it will exist somewhere online because either Google has found it and thinks that's your phone number by looking at other websites that Google has visibility of, or a user of Google will have potentially used that number to contact you in the past and has made a suggested edit that should be your phone number on your listing. So these things are moving parts. So point two, regularly check those profiles. And if you're struggling to do that en masse, consider investing in a tool like Reputation to help you do that easily and in one place. Point three, we talked a lot about volume of reviews and how you need to tap into those silent, happy customers, request reviews, whether that's in person, verbally, through business cards, through flyers and posters around the homes, or electronically through solutions like Reputation. As long as you're requesting feedback, you're more likely to generate that feedback and turn your sentiment and drive your own narrative. Point four, you're getting feedback, respond to that feedback. Customers are much more likely to turn a negative review into a positive review if you don't bury your head in the sand and you address that feedback and take ownership of that feedback. And likely, thank people for positive feedback. People have taken time and attention to share their thoughts with you and the world. Please do thank them for that feedback. And then finally, take action on that feedback. You're pulling in all of this feedback. Customers are giving you all of this, these nuggets, as Nathan referred to it as, all these really golden pieces of feedback to help you understand your business. Use them, learn from them, and make good operational change as a result. And a bit of a shameless plug, but I talked about this in a little bit more detail a couple of weeks ago with the CHM podcast, the Care Home Management podcast, and we delved really specifically into some of those key topics in a little bit more detail. It's only 15 minutes long. Please do either dig it out on their website or come find me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to share a copy with you and have this dialogue a little bit more further in more detail. But we do go into the detail of those topics a little bit more on that podcast.
And just very finally, before we can start answering some of your questions, eagerly anticipated questions, on Tuesday, the 8th of June, we at Reputation, we're going to be hosting our annual Transform event. It's the biggest event for us in the calendar. It's the second year now in a row. It's been virtual, extremely well received last year, particularly more than ever, as the digital landscape's shifting and more people are going online. It's completely free to attend. It's a 3-hour action-packed event. It'll feature Reputation's latest product innovations and developments, keynotes from Google and Forrester, sessions hosted by marketing and customer experience leaders from the household brand names. And don't worry, there are some expertise sessions within each sector from some of our customers. Some of those will no doubt be in the care sector as well. All you need to do is just visit transform.reputation.com/ to learn more about the event and register that way.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Thank you, Jay. Really excellent presentation. Excellent. Thank you very much for everyone who has been submitting questions. We will try and take as many of the questions that have been submitted as possible in the next sort of 5 to 10 minutes. So please do feel free to keep on submitting them. Nathan and Jay, first question I've come in is someone saying that I have a number of staff and resident feedback forms, but these are all offline. How can I get these online to boost my care home's online profile?
Good question. I'll take that one if that's okay, Nathan.
Yeah.
Clearly you're getting that feedback, which is great. What's going to be difficult with an offline survey is seeing themes from that feedback. You're going to have to look at that feedback in singular views. Normally the easiest way to get that feedback online is to either invest in a survey solution and build out that survey in an online format. Most survey providers, including Reputation, do have some form of historical data load that we can perform as well. We've done that in the past for providers where, as long as you've got that data in some sort of format, we can pull in all your old surveys into the program, and then you can use the online survey moving forwards to request digital feedback from customers. But yeah, I would say investing in an online solution would be the best for you to make sure you're leveraging and you're understanding that feedback better.
Excellent. And this may be possibly a technical question. Do closed Facebook groups tick the Google box as well as from search perspective, or just the open groups within Facebook?
They don't, because the key difference between a Facebook group and a Facebook page is there's no business information on a Facebook group. There's also no concept of leaving a review on a Facebook group. It's more of a community. A Facebook page is specifically for your business. You generate feedback in the form of recommendations on Facebook, and all your key business information is detailed in a specific info section on a Facebook page. A group is great to engage with the community, but it's not going to be driving search. It's not going to be driving inquiry or feedback.
Sure. Okay. We've had another listener saying, can we showcase our reviews on our own website?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Yeah, so when it comes to kind of the validation of your business, your positive customer reviews have just as much substance as kind of the revenue that you're bringing in. So they represent success, customer satisfaction, and hopefully longevity as well. The second best aspect of customer reviews, they're actually a built-in marketing tool. So how you're amplifying and adding customer reviews to your website can complement kind of an acquisition strategy as well. So yes, we can kind of publish kind of reviews as a widget to your website. There's many other ways in which you can do that, and obviously they all have a significant impact on kind of your target audience. But there's many ways, whether you could do it as a testimonial on your actual pages, or you can push these as like a widget to your website itself. And you can do this across other kind of sources as well, whether that's to your social channels or whether that's to Google as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Nathan. Someone else has asked if you could give us a quick talk through the process of claiming a GMB listing.
Yeah, absolutely. Really easy. The best thing to do would be to Google how to claim a GMB listing. The first thing that usually appears on Google is a step-by-step guide on exactly how to do that. Ultimately, it falls into finding that listing. On that listing, if it's not already owned or claimed by anyone, there will be a manage this listing button. When you click that, you will need to prove that it is your listing by providing a business email address or some information about that listing. And then you will be asked to verify that listing so Google can prove that it exists and that it is real. That usually forms the process of Google sending you a postcard, a physical postcard to that address with a code. You then will jump back onto Google, enter that code, and then you have claimed and verified that listing. So there's usually a process involved that requires you to get that post and then put that code in, but it is a very easy process to follow. And most suppliers, even Reputation included, can help you do that. Google has ability and capability to claim and verify those listings in bulk now as well. So if you are finding that you've got lots of homes and none of those pages are claimed, there are other options available to not have to do it one by one, but that would be the singular example, is to go through that process.
Excellent, thank you. Next one I've got here is, I think, a very important question. We've talked a little bit around some of the positive reviews that were received. What advice would you give on the best way to respond to a negative review that you feel is potentially harsh or untrue?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because It's so important when it comes to kind of online feedback, and not even just negative feedback. We talk about positive feedback as well. Important to respond to both types. In terms of if you had a negative sentiment, because look, you're always going to get that. When it comes to online, people are very quick to complain and very slow to praise. That's the general kind of consensus. However, in terms of responding to a negative review, always manage that, always respond to that negative review and then take it offline. So respond to it there so it's visible on your, whether it's on a Google My Business page or whether it's on a Facebook page, and then leave like your phone number or an email, something a bit more personal so it's not a generic kind of response that you're getting, and then take it offline, ring that person or email that person, because what that will do then in effect is that dealing with those kind of positive feedback, that negative feedback, you turn that weakness into a strength then. And that potentially could turn into an endorsement for your business because you've dealt with that negative review or that negative sentiment in a right and appropriate way.
Excellent, Nathan. Thank you for that. Very useful advice. The question as well connected to that one actually is, who do you see as the best person to respond to reviews, both positive and negative ones, and which department does the online reputation sit with?
I think ultimately everybody, it depends on how you're set up as a business, but one of the key things I say to customers as a customer success manager is this thing is going to work best if you embrace it as a culture. It can't just be one person's job in a business to be aware of and manage online reputation. Everybody has to have an involvement in growing your online reputation. Now, you'll obviously all be set up differently as businesses, but you have a series of homes potentially and home managers. You may decide that you want the homes to be responding to that feedback, in which case that's great, they can do that, and you can put approval flows in around that if you feel that you want to be more comfortable and approve those messages before they go live. You might also have a central complaints team or customer care team who may be responding to reviews and managing feedback, but everyone should have visibility of it. The more people you engage in the business on why this is important, and that's one of the key things and one of the first things we talk to businesses about when they express an interest in partnering with us, is we need to help you make sure that it's adopted across your business. It's not just a couple of key stakeholders that are ultimately all responsible for that. It's about raising that awareness, giving everybody the why it's important, right the way through from a head office staff to exec level, all the way through to regional managers and home managers. So everyone at least has an understanding of what your business is trying to achieve. And then somewhere in that model, we'll identify who's best placed to do what.
Fantastic. And next question I've got is coming as Christelle Johnson has asked, hello, what are your thoughts on Bing Places?
Valid source, I think. It's a definitely valid source. There is always a demographic of customers that are not going to be downloading Chrome the second they get a new computer or laptop. There's always going to be a demographic of people that stick with Bing and stick with what their default browser is. It's not a huge amount of inquiry, but it's certainly something that we look at. It's certainly a source that we push to. And help customers maintain. There aren't any concept of Bing reviews, so you don't have to worry about generating online feedback on Bing. But it is a listing site we work with. We have a great relationship with, and as part of our solution, certainly, when we push that data to Google, we send exactly the same data to Bing as well as we do all other key listing sites as well. So if you do find that, and you'll know as a business where your traffic is coming from, hopefully already. If Bing generates a fair amount of search volume for you, we absolutely will make sure that we work with Bing and we make sure that there's consistency across both your Google profile and the other key listing sites like Facebook, Bing, and so on.
Thank you, Jay. Another question again from Christelle. What kind of content should I share on G&B? Would you share the same contact as on your Facebook page?
That's a good one. Nate, do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, it is probably more specialized for you.
Google and Google posting is an interesting strategy because It's not a social media channel. Those posts are only visible, I think, currently maximum 14 days, and then they disappear and are archived. That used to be 7 days. It was increased to 14 days when COVID hit the world, just to give businesses a better opportunity to get awareness out around all the ever-changing COVID rules. So I think it still is currently 14 days. Normally, when we talk to business about GMB posting, it is an effective strategy, but really it's only around key events. You might have, I don't know, you know your home better than I do, but you may have promotional events. You might have a renovation you've just undertaken to improve the home. You may have new services or new events going on within the business that you want to talk about. They're more seen as kind of time-stamped advertisements, really. They are a great tool because you can add buttons to those posts where people can inquire more or click through to your website. But you do need to bear in mind they're only visible for 14 days and then they kind of explode and disappear into the background of your GMB page. So they are an effective tool, but you would need to tailor your content to that source accordingly. And normally I would suggest, as we've said, more promotional matters. So if I was talking to a provider in the auto industry, we would say only really use it if you've got a sale on, or in March or September when the new car registrations come out. With you, it might be key events going on in and around the local area. But yeah, it would be more sporadic than Facebook or Twitter or anywhere like that, but it can still play a part.
Excellent, thank you, Jay. Unfortunately, I think that is all the time we do have today for questions. I can see there are asked a few questions we didn't get to. Jay, Nathan, if it's all right, what we'll do is we'll share these with you after the presentation, and then we will get the answers to you, or we'll post the answers in a short blog on our website.
Yeah, by all means, happy to.
Excellent. So from my side, I'd like to say thank you very much for everyone who has joined us today and everyone who's listened in. Thank you very much, Nathan. Thank you, Jay. And thank you very much to Reputation for sponsoring today's webinar. And I'll hand over to Nathan and Jay to say the final few words.
Great, thanks, Gordon. Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, and thanks once again to everyone who joined today and to stay on at the very end to ask questions. Like I say, we'll answer the best we can to the questions that you have. But let's go through the next steps, really. I mean, number one was, we've said this a few times now, claim that GMB page, update the information. Do you own all of your site's GMB listings? Check, and if not, claim them. And Phil, Jay probably won't be annoyed at me, but connect with myself or Jay on LinkedIn. Follow Reputation for all the latest research, kind of content around reputation experience management. Visit the kind of resources section of the Reputation website as well. We've got loads of helpful free to access blogs, reports, guides, case studies that are centered around care homes in the care sector, plus plenty more. But the last bit I wanted to kind of do is get in touch with us. If you want us to help out, let us know, and we'll put together an online assessment, a tailored online assessment for you, completely free of charge, for your brand or for your business in total. So all you need to do is email us at contact-uk@reputation.com. But yeah, from me and Jay, thank you so much for joining today, and really enjoyed speaking to you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Been a pleasure.